Es momento de hacer un enlace Skype con Alison Griswold. Ella es reportera de Quartz y cubre temas de economía colaborativa y startups. Antes de eso, escribió sobre negocios y economía para la columna Moneybox de Slate. Alison es egresada de la Universidad de Yale y su trabajo ha sido publicado en el New York Times, Business Insider y Thomson Reuters. Alison, welcome back to Foro Global, to the space of Quartz every other week. How are you?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a great pleasure to have you again. Tell me a little bit. You wrote about Uber this time, and there's a big issue in New York going now in New York because of a raise in the salary of Uber drivers. The city council, as you put in your article, just approved, or it was about to approve a raise in the salary of Uber drivers. How were they able to do that? In countries such as Mexico and Mexico City, Uber, it's for many people, for many of its critics, it's not regulated as we wished. It should be regulated. Why in New York were you able to do it?
So New York, it's important to understand, tried to do this in 2015, 3 years ago, and they failed. They tried to put a cap on the number of Uber drivers, which would have helped to raise wages, and it didn't work. Uber won. And then they came back to it this year, and the conditions were different. So first of all, Uber had a lot of problems last year. So the company was generally in a worse position overall in terms of political goodwill. And then since the start of the year, there have been 6 drivers in New York who've taken their lives.
Wow.
And so that sort of was a huge crisis that the city needed to deal with. And that also gave it a lot of momentum. And then on top of that, the city was smarter about it this time. So when they went, instead of making it about cracking down on Uber, they phrased it more as doing things to improve the lives of drivers. And I think that helped the proposal go much further. And it was signed into law by the mayor yesterday.
Wow. What's the salary of an Uber driver in New York City by an hour now? Is it the minimum wage? And actually,
So
New York
Uber
is known for its progressive policies that you actually have one of the highest minimum wages in the U.S., right?
We do. The problem for Uber drivers is that they're considered independent contractors, not employees. And independent contractors don't get the minimum wage. They're not protected under sort of all the employment law in the U.S. for those sorts of things. So if you look at the statistics that the local taxi commission came up with when they studied this, they found that the median Uber driver was making about $14 an hour, and the median Lyft driver was making a little less than that, like $13.85. And the proposal that passed is to create a minimum hourly wage of $17.22, which is designed so that after drivers pay their expenses like gas and car maintenance and other things, they take away from that $15 an hour, which would be in line with the minimum wage.
That's a 20% increase, right? You also mentioned that in your column.
It's a significant increase. The precise amount of the increase is going to vary depending on what company you were working for, but yes, it's substantial. It's about 20%.
You also mentioned that there's an ongoing battle as well, and that it is in regard of the fact that they're not considered employees. So that's also in the New York City, in the New York courts. Is that also being debated?
It's being debated across the country. There have been cases on this in California. We recently had a decision in New York that found that a handful of Uber drivers were employees, but only in a very specific circumstance. So they had sort of applied to receive unemployment insurance, and they went through this very local labor hearing process. And those committees found that these drivers, under the state's eyes, were employees for the purposes of getting this unemployment benefit, but it was not a far-reaching decision in the sense that it didn't say all Uber drivers are employees.
There is also a recent competitor for Uber, and it's Lyft, right? Because we don't have that company in Mexico now, and I was recently in San Francisco, and I was offered a ride with Lyft by a company by Facebook, which invited me to go there. But we didn't know that Lyft is that a kind of a company just that functions just like Uber?
Is Lyft?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lyft functions very similarly to Uber. We have 4 companies that all do similar things in New York. We have Uber and Lyft are the 2 best known ones, and then we have Juno, which was new about a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And that's also, that's also very similar. And then we have Via, and Via is interesting because they only do shared rides, like an Uber pool or a Lyft line. But partly because of that, their shared rides are actually much better than the ones Uber and Lyft has to offer. They're much smarter about where they assign pickups and drop-offs, and it's a better consumer experience.
The new legislation approved by the City Council will also apply to those companies, or not only to Uber?
It will apply to all they call them app-based ride companies. So any of these big companies that has a minimum number of drivers that dispatches them through an app. But again, what's interesting about Via is that not only do they have a more efficient service already, but they were the only company when the taxi commission looked at it that was already paying their drivers above the minimum that the city wanted to create.
Okay, thank you so much, Alison, for these minutes for Foro Global. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias por habernos acompañado esta noche en Foro Global. Soy Genaro Lozano. Te invito para que continúes con mi compañero Eric Camacho y las noticias. Yo te deseo muy buenas noches. Nos vemos mañana por aquí para una nueva emisión de Foro Global.